Greetings. I just failed another IQ test. I believe my fourth one in a row. And it's not exactly failure, right? So failure depends on your goal. But my goal is to score in the 98th or 99th percentile. And I was doing that consistently. And now I'm not. Let's see. So this is the book I'm working on right now. We're assuming the tests are about the same in difficulty, but I think that's a reasonable assumption. And you can see right here, kind of looks like a clay tablet or something. You can see very clearly right here that the first four tests I had here, not a ton of red, and those are all in the 98th percentile. Some quite above the 98th percentile, 99 point something. But then the second four, over the time that I've been working more, are all failures. Now these are still in between like the 90th and 95th percentile, so it's not like horrible, but it depends on what you're comparing it to. Right? I mean, I can be pretty much completely exhausted and still beat 90 to 95% of people on IQ tests, but that really doesn't do me any good because I don't particularly care. I'm trying to get in the top 98th percentile, and whew, the hours are just killing me. The split shift and just basically working a full working schedule, right? So I'm working like 40 hours a week now, or a little bit more probably. So I'm working 3 or 4 hours in the morning, 3 or 4 hours at night, 7 days a week, and then I'm picking up some extra stuff too. So I might have to back off a little bit because it's just grinding me into the ground. But I don't know how much I can back off. Still paying my bills. I've been making so little money for such a long time, and my expenses are low. But like at some point, you got to make money. It's insane. But I apparently can't work hard and function at a high cognitive level. So that's quite the conundrum. Ironically, and this is ironic in so many situations, that a lot of problems, well, a lot of my problems have been, like with the brainstem stuff, is that the problem that you have requires extremely highly calibrated problem-solving skills, but the problem is decreasing your ability to solve problems along the way. So it's kind of funny. But yeah, that's not good. I have, well, I mean, I have a while. I have until March 23rd before I have my IQ test, but it does not bode well. It does not bode well for several reasons. It means that, well, so like my cognitive ability is still fairly precarious. I mean, I have bad days, obviously, where my spine just goes wrong and, it gets off, and I have to just basically kind of like survive, go into energy saving mode until the next chiropractic adjustment. And usually, especially if it gets really bad, even if the adjustments go well and everything, right, which is an if, but they usually do, then it has like an after effect for like a week. It just drags me down and keeps me there for a while. Everything's really slow, right? Slow to recover, or I don't recover very well, which has to do with a lot of stuff. I mean, your nervous system runs everything, so it affects your hormones, yada, yada, yada. But also, so this IQ test, because I have to keep working on it, so I'm going to be exhausted, which doesn't work out well because we're not firing the neurons correctly and you're not repairing the neurons correctly to raise my score on the IQ test, which you can't do to a large extent anyway, so you're just trying to perform your best, but you can train for a specific IQ test and increase your score just on that test. But instead, mine is going down because I'm becoming more and more tired. But also, I have a 2-hour drive. And driving really affects me because all that rattling in the car messes up my neck. And then when my neck gets messed up, my cognitive function declines quite a bit. So I'm not sure to solve that. I don't think I particularly can. So I am not sure how that IQ test is going to go. That's which I don't like that. I just, I would like to win, I guess would be the word. And one thing that I've recognized about successful people, you always hear from successful people, where I read a lot of self-development, self-help books when I was young. Not sure how valuable they really are, but if you really listen to people, they'll successful people in a general way will tell you to do whatever it takes. When I was young, I always thought that meant like work hard, right? That is not what they mean at all. They mean do whatever it takes. If that is work hard, that's fine. Work hard. If that's something else, do that, right? And I don't realize they meant it so literally, which is very interesting. Anyways, that leads into I'm gonna try some stuff because I have to try some stuff. So I'll offer up some variations and see if I can get my cognitive function at least for a test at a high level, right? I don't need it for that long. It's a 60-minute test that I'll probably complete in 40 minutes. So I need to function at a high cognitive level for 40 minutes. And then after that, who cares? And before that, who particularly cares? No big deal. So I kind of need to perform at my high level for 40 minutes, right? Let's shoot for 60, and then there can be no downturn. So I have to do some experiments and try to figure out how I can do that. And then the writing is interesting. Like, I'm exhausted. The more exhausted I am, the less I always feel like writing, because it's mentally draining. You're thinking of stuff and whatnot, and it just doesn't come out right. And then I can tell I'm not using the best words, and it just isn't flowing right. The style is different, significantly different when I'm more tired, and so I don't feel like writing. I mean, one, just because I don't want to write bad stuff when I'm tired, whereas I could just not be tired. If I wasn't in a tired state, I would just write better stuff. That's kind of a weird conundrum in itself as well. And so, because if I don't write, I'm never going to make it to making any money from writing, which means I can never not be doing something else like teaching all the time, which is exhausting me and keeping me from the writing. So quite a conundrum there as well. Paradoxes, right? Pickles. So some stuff I gotta figure out and solve. But well, in a few days, in a week, or just less than a week, right? A day less than a week, I have my speech for my seminar. I'm putting on the 1-hour seminar for my Advanced Communicator Gold through Toastmasters, and that should be interesting. I'm going to be really content heavy. I'm going to try to make it somewhat casual to try to balance out the content heaviness of it and get some people involved depending on who's there. Crowd interaction, or group interaction. It probably won't be a crowd. And that'll be interesting. And then March 23rd, I've got the IQ test in Lansing, which I think just me and Mom are going to drive down. It's on a Friday. And we're just going to drive down the one day, do the test, and just drive back. So I think that'll work out. I think that'll work out decently well. We'll see how it goes. I thought about staying with my Uncle Rick and Aunt Barb in Lansing, or outside of Lansing. But I'm not sure if that's a good idea, because if I drive and it messes up my neck, if I do it the day of, if I drive, it messes up my neck, I will perform worse on the test. That's true, and then I'll drive back, and that'll suck, right? But if I do that the day before, if I drive down there and it affects my neck, I have no way of correcting it anyways. So my best hope there would be luck, because sometimes stuff changes when I sleep, or stuff changes quite often when I sleep in my neck. I mean, I guess I could try to like strap myself down, and so I couldn't move, so it wouldn't affect my neck. But I think it probably would anyways, because I would strain against the restraints, and then it would change the muscle tone in various ways and affect the spine as well. But it never gets significantly better. Like, it can get significantly worse when I sleep, and sometimes it does. I think that's usually what happens, actually, because I'm really careful now. try not to lift up a bunch of heavy stuff or do a bunch of weird movements, and I don't walk a ton, and I try not to drive a ton. So I've limited the factors that can really affect me. So the major one that really affects me now is usually sleep. I wake up and just something went wrong in my neck in the night, and then, I'm kind of screwed. But most of the time now, it's been staying the same. And I've had, decent days and a bunch of days in a row quite a few times. I had that really bad day Sunday, and that's still affected me now, even though I had an adjustment Monday, and that helped out quite a bit. But the lag time on recovering from something like that is just a single day is at least a week, if not more. And then especially when you start stringing days together like that, because I've strung days together like that, it's a super long time, I guess, maybe in this lifetime, I'm trying to get my high IQ up for 2 years. So, not, and that's right, fairly ominous. But then I can get better when I sleep, but not significantly. Like, I can get a little bit better if I have a really bad day and then I sleep that night, or crazy schedule of mine now, but anyways, I sleep that night and I wake up and I'm like a little less worse. That does happen, but less often than getting worse. It doesn't usually get better, and it doesn't get significantly better. It can only get significantly worse. So ironic, right? It's like a ratchet. It can ratchet one way, but it really can't ratchet back the other way. Anyways, so that's just the tablets of doom. I mean, there's such a stark contrast between the first 4 tests. You can just look at it and see the color difference. The first 4 tests, like, there's significantly less red than the last 4 tests. And I mean, it's such an abrupt, obvious change. It's crazy. I was scoring so solidly, and that's when I'm performing well. I score in the top 98% percentile, or yeah, in the top 2%, so in the 98th percentile easily. There's an outside chance that I would score higher, 99th percentile or 99.9. I think I've had some practice tests where I score in the top 99.9th percentile, which is the 999 society. That's a society, high IQ society, way above, way more exclusive than Mensa. But I'm just shooting for the 98th percentile for Mensa. And 999 society would be awesome, but now it's looking like it's going to be, I'm going to have to pull some sort of animal out of some sort of hat, right? It doesn't have to be a rabbit, but something to score in the top 98th percentile. So have to figure that out. The writing's been going well, though. It's interesting. I've been writing about students now, which students have ridiculous amounts of content from students every day. Every day I have weird conversations with kids in China. So just crazy stuff. I mean, I recently had a conversation about like nuclear holocaust, nuclear wars and stuff with, I don't know, maybe a 12-year-old girl who's just extremely worried about it. And that was really weird and interesting. And she's really interested in space and stuff. I told her about Elon Musk. Told her to look up Elon Musk, and hopefully that gives her some positive outlook and the stuff that he's doing, which was hilarious. And then, and then I recommended some movies: The Martian, Interstellar. She'd never heard of either one of them, so maybe she should check those out. Talked with a student recently who's not from around Shanghai, Beijing, or Hong Kong, which is almost 0% of my students. She's from the other side of China, like over by Pakistan / what's over there, like Kazakhstan or something, which you never, right, like you don't hear about that side of China. And she said there's some big cities over there, and she said there's a lot of desert, there's some mountains, there's some plains, and it's weird. It's kind of just like the middle of the United States. Like nothing's there and no one cares. Like if it disappeared, people would be like, oh, we didn't know that was there. And like people from other countries don't even realize the middle of the United States is a thing. It's just East Coast, West Coast. Same thing with China, and they just have the one coast. So it's just Beijing, Shanghai, and Hong Kong, and everything else, it's like, what's there? No idea. Don't care. But it was interesting talking to her. because she said there's a lot of interesting traditional cultures and stuff when you travel around that area of the country. She was older. She might have been 13, 14, obviously good at English, so it's an interesting conversation. But the material that the weird, interesting conversations I have with Chinese kids every day could generate. I mean, I could shoot an hour of videos explaining all of these weird situations every day, easy, because I'm doing 6 and 9 hours a day of teaching. So yeah, really interesting. And then the ones I have the one schedule I have set up with the big company, 5,000 teachers or whatever, and I've gotten up high. I've been in the top 100 people, which apparently has to do more with how many students you turn over than how many ratings they give you. But I think like 600 hearts from students now. I almost always get a 5 heart rating from students right after the class if they rate me. Some of the students that just don't rate you, but I get a almost 100% 5 heart rating from students, and then I get almost a 100% 5-star rating from from parents. And they average out the parent scores, who don't score as much as the children or don't rate you as much, and mine averages out to 5 stars. I think at one point I had like one person rate me a 3. I think the kid rated me a 3-star too. So that one was a weird one, but I didn't really throw off my numbers very much or at all. So that company I've arranged so I have a ton of turnover. Mostly I have a couple of students that are the same, but I have a ton of turnover. And I'm well, it's a unique way of doing it, but I like it because I get variety. I get the student that's learning the ABCs or has no idea what the ABCs are, and then I get the student that is working on fractions, and that kid keeps having classes with me. I talked to him about it, and him and his dad really like me as a teacher, but they can't get on my regular time, so they have to keep signing up for my times that I sign up for. All right, it's kind of a weird thing, and I don't want to explain the whole thing because it's complex, and you don't care, and you don't need to know. But he said it's hard to sign up for my times because they fill up so fast, which is funny because I do have quite a few students that like me or sign up for me, and I've got good ratings. I think the parents look at that, and it's interesting, but my times fill up quickly. And I've heard of other people complain with this company that they have a hard time, like kids aren't signing up for them or they're not filling up their time slots, and I don't have much trouble with that. And that kid said he's having a hard time finding time slots open for me to sign up for. So it's that's kind of good. I like it. It's I think that's a good rating. It's a better rating than anything, right? Business and repeat business is a good sign of how well you're doing on that type of stuff. At least, right? They're satisfied customers. And then through the other company, the smaller company, all my kids are consistent. I don't turn over almost anyone there, mostly because that company generates almost no new business. They seem to be in like a downward spiral, like a vortex. And I keep offering to help them with stuff. I talked directly to the founder. I offered to shoot free videos going through phonics and stuff for her that they could then, promote, sell as an add-on or not sell, just have it as a feature for coming to the company. And she said no. She didn't know why she said no, but she said no. And then I offered to do a whole course on Harry Potter stuff. I actually offered to do one course on overall Harry Potter, and then 7 more courses, one on each book, and ridiculous amounts of hours for multiple students at one time, so you would make a much higher margin. And she also said no, and really, really weird, because another teacher that I really liked there, he was the one that brought me into the company, I guess a little bit of a mentor, Mika. I reach out to him, every few months, I guess, with some sort of issue I usually have with the company, because I keep telling them to do stuff better, but they're not going to. And he loved it. He thought it was great, and I mean, a lot of other people loved it, right? Like Kristen, my sister, loved it, and my Aunt Karen loved it, and I had other people comment on it that it sounded like a really cool course, and I thought it did too. And she's not exactly sure why she doesn't want to run it, but she doesn't want to run it. So I keep offering ways to help the company make money, and they keep turning me down, and they keep having no business, no new business. So the future's not looking good for that company. So I'll probably shift to this bigger company more and more, which is fine. It's going well. The bigger company scares me a little bit because if you are late or you miss day or miss classes, there are financial penalties. Not only do you not get paid for those, you get penalized for those. So the money can go away quick if your internet were to shut down for a day and you missed all your class. If I'm signed up for 7 hours, working 7 hours one day, and then my internet goes down and I can't work those hours, then I'll get penalized for every class I missed that day. So not only would I not get paid for that day, I would basically have to work another 7 hours for free. So it's a huge turnaround. I don't like that, and the company's really finicky. Like you have to apply for days off like 20 days in advance, and if you apply for more than 2 days off in the same month, then you get a financial penalty. And they can do all this stuff because everyone wants to work from home. And right, I'm in my bedroom in front of my computer, and it's really convenient. And I get paid $16 an hour, and some people get paid more. Hopefully, I'll be able to get a raise at a year. I think they like teachers that teach in schools, so I think some of those get paid up to like $22 an hour. And so if you can make that kind of money working from your house in front of your computer, which is so convenient, basically everyone in the world wants to do that job, or a lot of people, way more than they need, right? If they only need 5,000 teachers, so they have no problem having kind of crappy working conditions, which is, right? So that scares you a little bit because they could fire you. It really doesn't affect them. Like, what are they losing? Nothing. They just replace you with someone. Or you could get huge financial penalties if something were to go wrong. There's no one to really talk to work it out. It's a huge bureaucracy. So you're just going to get lost in the red tape. Whereas a smaller company, I can talk to people and actually do stuff and make a difference. And I make a lot more progress with the students, and there's a lot of advantages to it. But the talking to people doesn't work at that company either. Even though I can talk to the important people, they're they don't want to talk. It's really weird. It's kind of it's like working everywhere, I guess. The Subordinates Lament from Jim Lundy, which is just genius. He ran the fastest growing department in Xerox in its really early days, which went on to do some crazy stuff, but he was getting like 400% growth a year in the early days, something like that. And the Subordinates Lament that he invented afterwards when he started doing consulting, because he was good at running fast-growing companies, was, "We, the uninformed, working for the inaccessible, are doing the impossible for the ungrateful." And it's disturbing that makes sense in a big company, like in a bureaucracy, but it's disturbing that it happens in so many small companies, which also makes sense. That's why there's such a huge turnover in small companies, and companies like this little teaching company go broke so quickly. I think it's been around for 2 years, so it's a decent length of time for a distributed tech company. But I think it'll be going away relatively soon. We'll see as they struggle along. I mean, she has outside investors. A lot of companies can lose money for years and years and years and keep going. As long as you can raise money from investors, you don't actually have to make money, because you can lose money as long as you have more money. And we'll see how that goes. But that one's in some sort of downward spiral. But the kids are awesome, and I'm going to try to take the kids if the company goes bankrupt or something. Just arrange stuff individually with them, and because some of the students I've had for a long time. I mean, Parker I've had for 16 months. He's 8 years old, and I have him up to writing Pokemon stories, like decent stories. It's kind of incredible in his second language. It's impressive. And I wrote an article about that. I've written 2 about that now, actually. And that is so interesting. There's so many insights into writing there. How he naturally started speaking when he's telling the story, because I had him narrate it and I transcribed so he could focus on making the story up. He naturally started speaking in first person present tense, which I thought was so interesting. And if it was a real story, I bet you that had happened to him, I bet you he would have spoken first person past tense. But because it's an imaginary story that he's making up as he goes, the most natural form of point of view and tense is first person present tense. It's so interesting. But then as I was typing it out, he corrected me and said that I, him, right, as I, should be Parker. So he thought it should be changed to the third person, which was just extraordinary. And then we did some changing to the past tense and stuff too, and some of the tenses ended up a little messed up, but not a huge deal. And we're going to go back and revise. Really interesting stuff. And then there's a kid I'm studying flowers with, Alex, which gave me an idea for a story. I don't know if I'll develop that. I don't know if it's really in my direction, but it'd be cool. Develop an entire magic system based on flowers. I mean, you could do so much with economics and politics and all sorts of stuff with that, which would be really cool. And it could be pretty hard fantasy because you could use a lot of chemistry and biology and botany in it. But you could add in a soft fantasy element by making like one special flower that's even more valuable than everything else, that makes humans, some sort of soft magic, makes them into Superman or something where they can do almost anything. And it's an extremely good idea, an expansive idea. I mean, just the direction you could go on economics and politics alone by having to control all flowers for different magical purposes is extraordinary. And I've got the student, Flora, that's super interested in everything having to do with the United States. We have crazy good conversations about all sorts of stuff, which is really interesting and cool. And her family goes on vacation for a week to another country about every 2 months, which is insane. Since I've been teaching her, which is like 6 months, they've been to Australia for a week, they've been to Dubai for a week, and they've been to the United States for a week, just to like check out the culture. They just that's really cool. They just fly around checking out stuff, which is interesting to say the least. And then I have the one student, Jenny, that I also wrote an article about because she wants to learn popular English poetry, and we went through The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost, which is really cool. And the poem was originally kind of made as a satire or kind of a joke on Robert Frost's friend, but has multiple different meanings that you can interpret it in. But it's pretty straightforward. The wording is fairly easy. The vocabulary is fairly easy. But now we're going through The Raven, which The Road Not Taken is it's 4 stanzas with 5 lines each, 20 lines total. I believe that's right. And The Raven is 108 lines, and it's older, and it's much more complex, and I'm not great at poetry anyways, knowing all the meters and stuff like that, which luckily we're not learning exactly all that. We're not learning how to make it necessarily. We're learning how to read it basically at this point and understand what it means. But The Raven is so much more complex in every aspect. It's incredible. And Edgar Allan Poe wrote an essay that I'm not sure if I believe on composition, the philosophy of composition, I believe it was called. And he laid down how he made The Raven. And I don't know if someone can be that analytical about something like that. It's incredible. It's incredible. Very interesting, right? Because C.S. Lewis has basically like a 1-page article. I can't remember what it's called, where he talks about not believing authors who say they know how they made stories, and because he's not sure he knows how he made his, and he doesn't really believe authors when they say it either. In all of his stories, C.S. Lewis's stories, his space trilogy and all the Narnia books started with single images in his head. He would see a picture in his head and then develop a story from that, which is very interesting. And he says not to believe any author's story on how they develop a story, which is ironic because should we believe his? Which is really cool. But that's really interesting. That's with Jenny. And I tried to, the first 3 stanzas of The Raven, I turned into just contemporary, blunt English. So they're hopefully very straightforward in what they're saying, which is weird. And she really liked it. She really thought that helped quite a bit. And I mean, we read it all. We've read the whole thing several times, and now we read each stanza, and then we read each line, then we go through it word by word, and then we go through the meaning of the line, and then we go through, a lot of times, two lines should go together, something like that. We'll go through the meaning of that section, and we'll go through the meaning of the stanza, and then I'll write out my little thing explaining it in simple language, and then, or contemporary, more easy to absorb language. And then we move on to the next one. So it's extremely interesting. But I like all these explorations, and it's a good mix because I've got like a handful of students that are a little more than a handful, approaching two handfuls of students that are consistent, and I have at least once a week, or like Parker has 2 lessons a week, and then all the other students, so most of my hours are this random churn where just a student pops up. I don't know who's coming, right? Probably never met him before. Student pops up, and then some material pops up, and it's just like plain jazz or table topics or impromptu speaking or something, which I really like and I'm decently good at, and that's a lot of fun. It has cool turnover because I can't really change jobs now. Like I used to change jobs when I got bored, and I've been doing online teaching for English for, I don't know, a while, I think 18 months, something like that. And so I'd probably be feeling like switching jobs now, but I'm really not. And I think it's that crazy turnover in the students that I have through this big company where it adds variety. It adds variety, and I like it. And then it's cool too when I get the same student, like Alex with the fractions. He tries to get my classes a lot now, and so it's like, oh, hey, how's it going, Alex? And it's kind of a surprise that I have someone that I know. So it's a surprise either way. Very interesting. All right. Anyways, so wow, 32 minutes. Crazy. I was gonna do a short one, but we have the ominous stuff with apparently working a lot really deteriorates my IQ capacity. All right, it's only like 8 percentile points or something, like 8 or 10 percentile points, but enough to make, I mean, that's a huge difference. And then we have, good stuff about writing, but we have to remember that I'm working hard. We know my IQ's lower. Like, we know my IQ's lower. So we know my writing quality is lower, even though I've been trying to increase my output or my quantity by not allowing myself to read in a day that I don't write. So I have to write something before I can read. That's been really hard to transition to, but it seems to be picking up. It seems to be that I'm transitioning to it or getting used to it, even though, it kind of, well, it's not natural for me. I would really just prefer to read and do nothing else. And then the teaching is going fairly well, even though it's kicking my butt, right? The hours are kicking my butt. So it's interesting. We'll see. We'll see how everything works out. The future is always unknown, and that basically makes the future always interesting. Anyways, till next time, Jeff out.